Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Wednesday, March the 12th, 2025, and today's topic, I'm going to call it character design, inking styles. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer. So to begin with, I'll put a link to yesterday's video. I think this is the third video. Yeah, I'll post a link to yesterday, but you can check out the videos from this week if you want to see kind of the progress of this page. Lately, I've been doing it that way, where I kind of show all the steps. With that in mind, I wanted to go over my progress on this page, and today's topic is inking styles. So I'll kind of talk about like the different styles that I use. Style is kind of not the best word, but like it's okay, and I'm gonna work on this part. And what I mean is the style isn't so much the right word, is because this is really like techniques, but it's okay, I mean, to call it style. Yesterday I worked on like the profile of the eye. It's a little off, but I mean it's not bad. But yeah, I worked on this after yesterday's video. And so for this one, the technique is I use the felt tip pen, but like more of the thin is a little bit more crosshatchy. And then this one was more outlined and kind of bold outline, so I kind of just used this one pen, like a medium point, if you will. I mean, it's medium point, but depending on how big the drawing is, it might look like a finer point. And then this one I feel like is more contrast, where I just kind of filled in the black areas. And then this is kind of a style too, so you can see these are treatments, is kind of another way to say it. And then so for this one I was thinking, well, what do I want to do here? So I did have some thoughts. So I don't have like one way of doing it. So for example, I'm okay with all of this, but there is kind of a difference between like a sketch and, let's say, something more finished. So to me, like, this is still sketchy, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a sketch, but it's just kind of done in like a sketchy style. Also, kind of part of the style is like I had to correct some things, so there's that. But then also here I just kind of went in and added highlights with like white paint. But just for today, or specifically for today, I wanted to work on this. In a way, I'm going to combine all of them. So one thing that I say pretty often is when you get to like this point where you go from this to like this or whatever like that, you can't rush that part. Now you can rush it, and I have. That's okay. I mean, if you understand that that's going to be kind of an experiment, because sometimes I'll just do it just to see what it looks like. And that's kind of what I did here, where I needed to see like what it looked like so that I can have an idea or like an option. And plus it's a sketchbook, so that's kind of, for me, like the purpose of it is to see what I like. And that's kind of what I mean. And I'll do another video about, like, I mean, I've done a few videos about style, but I'll keep returning to it. It's not just the technique, but it's like the choices or like your preference, or yeah. And it could also even be like the project itself. And the idea behind this one is, I guess I can zoom in, I would call it line weight. I kind of like that it's open, so this is more crosshatch, and it's good. I mean, for like the comic book idea I'm working on, I would probably switch up the technique. I'm gonna go with what I would call sort of an open, not outlined, because I feel like this is probably the outline closest to that. It's more of a broken outline. Maybe call it like line weight. So there's going to be some things that are already like done, but then there's going to be some areas that doesn't look finished. By line weight, I mean I've already established some of the lighting. Part of that is coming from the rest of the sketches. I kept it pretty consistent, meaning like I just put like the shadow on like the right side. I'm going to think about better shapes. That's one thing. And the tool that you use, whether it's like a felt tip pen like I'm using, which I really like. I mean, part of it is because it works well on this paper and it shows up on the camera. So part of it is like the tool that you're using. And then part of it is like the style, like I was saying. So by that I just mean, so the technique is like the tool. So the technique meaning like how you draw. So definite, so be definite about it, like that's part of it. Sketching is like a technique, like you could sketch it out, which I did here. When I put down the line, I mean, I'm saying basically, if you want it to look finished, then I'm saying like this is like this is it. Versus when you're sketching, then you're sort of saying like maybe like it's not it. Like you could go back and adjust it. So kind of like that. Again, this is a technique. And style is like a mix of technique. It's a mix of subject. It's a mix of the methodology. So what I mean by methodology is stuff like in comics, for example, you could have penciled this and then ink it, or like have someone else ink it. I didn't pencil it, so my methodology was to sketch it in loosely, and then now I'm going in to render it. I think like the idea of treatment is sort of like, am I going to crosshatch? So use a thin line to like do crosshatching. Like I could use a thin line to kind of do this too, and that's not a bad idea. You could also map out the shadows kind of like this. You sort of map out like the big shapes and then just fill it in. And I don't really have just one way that I like to do it, but I like this style. It's kind of cool. It kind of takes me back to comic book, my comic book drawing phase. So you'll notice like here, it's not outlined, it's sort of a broken outline, but it could be kind of outlined in the sense that maybe not completely filled in with like the ink, although this could also work together. If I'm gonna color this, I'd probably want to leave it kind of open. So like the whole point of the sketchbook is to help with that, help to figure that out. And that's what I mean about not being in a rush. Like you can do it quickly. Oh, it's not on camera. Maybe I'll zoom out. Like you can be quick in the sense that put down the lines like quickly and not hesitate over it. So there's a difference between that versus rushing through it. And part of that, part of not rushing, is because as I'm working on this, so there's a few things. One, I'm not rushing like right now because that would not be good. Also, the other thing is I feel different like after I don't work on it for like get a good night's rest and then come work on it again, like it looks different. Like I feel different about it. I can see it better too. So some of these like sketch lines I might just leave. But yeah, I wouldn't rush this part. There's no reason to. Now you might have like some areas like this, or you might think, okay, what if I want to shade that in? I would probably recommend using like a thinner line and then deciding what direction you want to go in. So like these lines, for her hair, I basically use kind of a parallel line. So then I'm just going to go, so part of this is figuring out like the shape of the chin, and I would check the proportion. So for example, so if you use a thinner pen, it does have a more subtle effect. So part of this is cleaning up the sketch, and if you have to, you can always go in and clean it up more with white paint. So again, just be gradual about it. That would be my recommendation. You can fade it. And by that I mean, if you use the smaller pen lines, you can get a more subtle effect. And that's texture, and like that's a treatment. Same with the areas that are in the light. You could, if you want to darken some areas, just use the same technique, meaning the pen strokes, be definite about the pen stroke, but since you're using a different pen, it'll have a different texture, but also lighting. And then if you want to have some more gradation, so for example here, I might want to have more of the dark color, but because I'm using the thin line, now you could use the thin line for the whole thing. I think it'll look a little bit more like this. So let's say you're using the thin line, then you can go in and sort of blend, kind of have like a blending effect. But these are just like ideas. But yeah, like I would build it up gradually and then just keep building up like the dark areas. I kind of did this because like I basically knew I wanted this to be the darkest area, and so I wanted to have something to basically compare and sort of look like how to balance the picture, because it's really all about like balance. That's really what I wanted to go over, just like different styles, different techniques, treatments. I'm just going to call it like inking style. But yeah, that'll be it for this page for like the videos, and that'll also be it for today. I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine, and if you like these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it, and until next time, keep on sketching.